Right. Let me also bring in Gargi Roy and Tausif Ahmed Khan into the discussion. Gargi ji, it was a momentum that was built on the streets of the national capital. The Congress party also staged protests in Dharna in different parts of the country, trying to make this issue mainstream. The BJP says they're not worried about the people's issue, but this is a subterfuge to protect the family. How much of merit do you find in that argument?
Yes, it is true. Price rise is not happening today. It has been happening. And when the Congress person talks about GST, yes, isn't it so that in the GST Council, there are representatives from all the states, finance ministers of all the states. So the finance minister of Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, weren't they there in the GST Council? So why didn't they raise their voice then? They should have stopped it in the GST Council itself. And when Nirmala Sitharaman is explaining, they should discuss and debate in the parliament. So it is very obvious. You don't need a Salman Khurshid to say it is obvious. Today, when the ED is repeatedly calling the Gandhis, they are coming out on the streets because this price rise is just an excuse. In the garb of a movement of a price rise, basically they're trying to threaten the ED. One person even said that Congress, if they touch Sonia Gandhi, there will be law and order situation. So they're literally, indirectly threatening the ED and the other agencies. Okay, so please answer.
Let me also bring in. It's only fair that I bring in Congress party to respond. Arshpreet, I'll give you the opportunity to respond. Before that, Tausif Ahmed Khan, the protest by the Congress party and in all objectivity, the issues of price rise, wholesale price index, inflation, these are global concerns across even various developed countries. In a post-COVID economy, it has been very, very difficult for most countries to contain the inflation rate. This is a problem far more complicated and critical. And talking about GST, it is true that the GST Council has representation from all the state governments.
Well, GST Council has representation from all the state government, yes. But how much of dues is left there? How much does the BJP government considers the inputs from the state is to be seen. You talked about the you have in a way you have trivialized the issues like price rise and inflation.
No, I'm not. No, I'm
not. Unemployment by calling it a global issue, and there's nothing to worry.
Calling something a global issue is not trivializing, Tausif. You're being unfair to me. I think you're being thoroughly unfair to me. But anyways, go ahead.
I'm going to give you a figure. I'm trying to take out the figure. You must probably
it is 15. It is 15. It has been in double digits for the last 18 months. The wholesale price index.
When it comes to unemployment, India is at 28%. Compare it with other countries. There are countries with only 4% unemployment. How is this a global issue? It is an India-specific issue. We are in Modi-made disaster. Narendra Modi took over government in 2014. At that time, cylinder price was 400, about 400 rupees. He sold gas cylinders to every house, every person in the country. And now, that cylinder he is selling at 1200 rupees. Where is the profit going? Congress and each opposition leader party, whether Trinamool or NCP or any opposition leader, along with every citizen of India, has the right to ask government.
No, you have right to ask the government, and we should ask the government on this.
Modi made disaster, and you're saying ED. No one is scared of ED. With 0.5% conviction rate, it will be laughable if anyone says that anyone is scared of ED.
I appreciate your passion on this issue, Mr. Guru Prakash. I'm coming to you, and you can respond to various points that have been made by Arshpreet and also Mr. Tausif Ahmed Khan. There's one thing I'd like to add, that BJP, when they were in opposition, they were a very vociferous opposition. There were multiple dharnas, street protests that were done on the LPG price hike, on inflation. When the UPA government came down, apart from various other scams that unfolded in the country, inflation and price rise was one of the key issues.
Certainly, a couple of points. Our friend from the Congress party was mentioning about inflation. I think Professor Ashok Gulati, who is a renowned economist, he has written an article recently and he has detailed out the average rate of inflation in the last 8 years of UPA and in the last 8 years of NDA, which is considerably down. So that is on the basis of fact. Second point, when he says about misuse of agencies, it is really laughable because it was the year 2013. Justice Lodha in Supreme Court, he categorically said that CBI is being used like a caged parrot. This was not the NDA. It was the UPA when the Honorable Supreme Court has to make such a scathing remark that CBI is a caged parrot. Third point, you can easily stay away from Salman Khurshid's statement But it was the same Salman Khurshid who said after Batla House encounter कि सोनिया गांधी के आंखों में आंसू था. आप कब तक भागेंगे?
लेकिन गुरुप्रकाश जी, कुछ मूलभूत मुद्दे हैं, कुछ मूलभूत मुद्दे हैं. प्लीज कंप्लीट. बट आई एम ओनली ट्राइंग टू से सर दैट कुछ मूलभूत मुद्दे हैं, महंगाई है, जो इश्यूज हैं आपके और हमारे जीवन के लिए, सरकार को उनको एड्रेस तो करना पड़ेगा.
तो सरकार ने एड्रेस नहीं किया है क्या? जब देश की वित्त मंत्री बात करती हैं और अभी आईएमएफ और वर्ल्ड बैंक का भी डेटा कोट हो रहा था, तो सेलेक्टिवली डेटा को नहीं देखना चाहिए. यू हैव टू लुक एट द डेटा विद अ कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव पर्सपेक्टिव. इट इज द सेम IMF, it is the same World Bank which recently said that there is a 12% reduction in extreme poverty. But you are not going to talk about that. It is the same IMF, it is the same global agencies. In the last 8 years, you tell me, when we say zero tolerance on corruption, there is absolutely no corruption. You raise question mark on Enforcement Directorate. It is the Enforcement Directorate that has seized property worth more than 1 lakh crore. Okay. More than 850 people are facing prosecution. Are they all from opposition? No, absolutely they are not from opposition. But you cannot selectively blame institution. If the institutions are working as per your whims and fancies, they are okay. You can raise question mark on Supreme Court. You raise question mark on media. You raise question mark on Election Commission. That is not going to work. You have to fight about real issues. When was the last time the Congress leadership was out on issues of Mahungai? When was the last time the Congress leadership was out on the street on the issue of unemployment?
I'm going to take these direct questions.
It is only about the leadership, only about the parivar.
I'm going to take these questions to Arshpreet. Arshpreet, I'm sure you have a lot of points to respond upon, but let's begin by what Guruprakash has said, that when was the last time this kind of protest, this kind of momentum, which by many standards can be said that there was a successful protest by the Congress party, when was it last seen? It was not seen in a very long time, and inflation has not happened yesterday.
So, I did not interrupt anyone. I hope nobody would interrupt me. I hope the BJP spokesperson or whoever is questioning this would give me a timetable. We'll make a timetable according to the whims and fancies of the BJP and then protest accordingly. I don't have to say anything more than that. Number two, GST Council does comprise of, state representatives, no doubt about that. But they're in the majority. And their say does not get implemented. No doubt about that. Number three, 23 people have gone below the poverty line in the second regime of the BJP government. 97% of people's incomes, 97% people's incomes have decreased ever since the BJP has come into power. And number three, demonetization, has it stopped black money? Has it stopped corruption? Has it stopped embezzlement? So many things are happening. The BJP government has rather worsened the issue. And if we talk about that, they have a problem with it. They haven't even spared children, for that matter, sharpeners, pencils also have GST on them. And they are talking about Congress party, when the Congress party was in power, when you used to protest for trivial issues like LPG. At our time, the cylinders costed 410 rupees in 2014 when we left. And now they cost 1,053 bucks in your regime. So shouldn't BJP protest against itself? And comparing, their standards with our standards of protest, we have a bigger issue at hand, and if we protest, they have a problem with it. Number six, petrol, LPG, essential commodities like pulses, cooking oil, they have disturbed common people. And if we are echoing the voice of the common people in the parliament, outside the parliament, on roads peacefully, what problem does the BJP government have?
Also, just a bit, if you can add about the attendance within the parliament, that was also being said by some people here.
See, I would also object to that, because we have always made sure that the issue is resolved, whether it is done in the parliament, outside the parliament, and our leaders have always done their bit. It is the BJP that does not want to call parliament sessions, and it is them who, call off the parliament sessions for no rhyme or reason. They have also stopped from protests happening outside the parliament, just outside the parliament, when they have been doing it throughout. Ever since the, independence, they have been protesting. And not just that, they have also stopped from religious ceremonies being happening outside parliament. We don't understand